This is James Altucher at TheStreet.com TV with Jim Cramer. We're going to do a part 2 of the questions that Stock Picker members have for Jim Cramer. So, Jim, if the stock market didn't exist at all, what would you be doing? You're obviously an obsessive guy.
Right.
You
I
work
like
hard.
to write.
So,
I think at this point I would have tried my hand at some other books. I had talked with Simon & Schuster about the idea of doing some history books, mostly about the Eastern Front in World War II, which I'm fascinated by. It's like kind of my avocation to read every book about that. I did a piece in the Wall Street Journal Pursuit section about it.
when did that appear? Could people find it online?
Yeah, it was in February.
Okay.
Also, I would be, at this particular point, trying my hand at novels, because it just seems like it's something that I might be able to do, but I don't know. I would just try it.
What? Give us a plot line. Give us an idea.
Well, I would like to do it about Wall Street. I think that I feel like that I could do a very realistic book about what happens behind the scenes. Now, there have been some of those, so they haven't been that artful. And, I've got to, let me be candid, I like starting businesses. So I would be starting some other businesses that have less to do with the stock market.
Well, and I want to ask you about that, but first I want to get back to the novel. What is the worst scam you've seen on Wall Street that was just never caught?
The worst scam I saw was a sale of a huge number of Beatrice calls struck at the 45 level when the deal for the takeover was about $45, which meant that if you did this, you knew that where the deal was coming in. You just sold a lot of premium, but it was very sophisticated. This was done by a guy who was nailed, Bob Freeman, who was nominally my boss at Goldman Sachs in the 1986 timeframe. A very sophisticated crime, because what you're doing is realizing, one, where the bid's going to take place, and two, that the premium was so high that you just kind of could sell it over and over again and do fine.
But given that you'd be the entire open interest at that strike price, wouldn't that be easy to catch?
At
like the Dow
point,
Jones stuff is
At
getting...
that point, I think that the sale of a call would elude the regulators. Now the regulators are much, much smarter, so I think it would have been nailed.
What about something that's never been caught, like a little bit under the wire there?
Well, I think that that there is, that a big scam that's never been caught. Yeah. First of all, I want to take my hat off. The regulators now have very sophisticated analysis, and I think that they are capable of catching a great deal of things. I have seen from time to time people endlessly promoting situations that are not takeovers as takeovers. And the only time that, but the government is reluctant to do that, because to go after those people, because there's a plausibility. So I feel like there's a lot of, you can hype and have plausibility, which then allows you to hype, but it's clearly a violation of the law and is therefore defensible.
So what should the retail investor do? They're inundated by media
this
messages.
is really the point, is that one of the things I try to point out in Wall Street Confidential is where I think they could be ripped off, but it's over a larger pastiche that is non-rip-off oriented. So, I think that I've been struggling with the notion. I had an interesting, it's not a dialogue, but Mark Cuban posted something on his excellent blog, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, about where's the money and why aren't more people invested. And I think it's because when I point out about, and I didn't do it, but I point out the scams about the opening, controlling the market, point out the possibility of hype, that people think that that's what happens every day. It isn't what happens every day, but I want people to know why they've been shaken out. See, that's my point, is that I want, my mantra's always been the same since I started TheStreet.com. I want you in the game because it's a lucrative game. But there are many people who have created an environment that makes you feel like you're overmatched. And I just want to point out where you're overmatched so you don't get blown out.
All right, well, again, I want to actually ask more of these Stock Picker member questions, but we'll do that in a part 3.
Okay.
This is James Altucher at TheStreet.com TV with Jim Cramer. Thanks.
Hi, this is Jim Cramer with a special edition of Stock Picker. I think that I made a mistake earlier. James Altucher suggested to me whether I knew of any particular scams that were never discovered. And sometimes you can't think fast enough. I've come up with it. During the late 90s, and I believe now once again, we see a subtle collusion among mutual funds to keep certain stocks higher. Now, this was something that was with aggressive buying. I used to call them buzz and batch, which were a trader and a portfolio manager who attempted to manipulate stocks upward. We saw this with AMCC and PMC Sierra and a bunch of the other companies that were now defunct.com, Scient and Viant, where we saw the same aggressive buying every day where the stocks were walked up. I always felt it was if the mutual funds had all been in a room. I'm beginning to see that, and I'm writing a piece right now for realmoney.com. I'm beginning to see something like that in the stock of Qualcomm. I feel like that Qualcomm has a bid underneath, and it's almost as if there's collusion of mutual funds. Now, is it right that a mutual fund can walk up a stock by going to various brokers and buying simultaneously? I think not. I think this is a violation of the fomentation provision of 10b-5, meaning they're fomenting a lot of upside interest. But this was a scam that no one ever went after. It caused stocks to far exceed where they should have been and created an environment where retail was sucked in thinking that there was a fundamental reason to buy when it was really just mutual funds marking up stocks creatively in order to be able to generate a lot of performance. I think that that was a scam that was never uncovered, and I am always on the lookout for it now. And I have no concrete evidence, I feel that it's happening in QCOM these days.